of you who aren't familiar with Launch, it is currently our offline solution for packet pickup. So we've decided to really focus on a very narrow slice of things and solve kind of a critical race day functionality, right? And that's getting a packet pickup to run smoothly, whether you have internet or whether you don't have internet. So that's the niche that Launch falls into right now. So I'm going to kind of talk about how Launch is currently being used in the field. I'll talk through the general features that Launch has, and yeah, let's get started. So to start, just a couple of quotes from one of our ChronoTrack timers, Dave Lipinski for Trekman Racing. Launch is the most significant update / improvement to my timing operation yet. And more recently in an email that he sent, he just said that he really loves the product. So really happy that Dave is getting a lot of value out of Launch. As far as usage in the field, the first time we deployed Launch in the field was December 3rd, 2016. This was at a Spartan race in Atlanta. We used it just for a very minimal set of people, about 200 people we used to actually assign bibs dynamically, bibs and tags. We then opened we opened for the entire Spartan event in late January, Spartan SoCal, I believe. It's probably the biggest Spartan event in the US. And we checked in and dynamically assigned bibs and tags to everyone in that event. And it went pretty well. And so Spartan has been using it ever since then. They've been deploying it themselves on a week-in, week-out basis, and they've run into some issues every now and then, but overall it's been very successful for them. We used it at the NYC TD 5-borough bike tour, which was I think May 7th, May 8th, right around there. So that we used to dynamically assign bibs to almost 30,000 people over a 2-day expo. I do remember specifically on the second day in the afternoon, the internet actually was down for a couple hours. And we were watching those changes in Launch, those pending changes building up. I think there were about 2,000 or 3,000 pending changes at one point, but the packet pickup operation kept flowing without internet. So it was doing its job there. And then it was also used at a PATS run, and this was used for athlete bib lookup. So not dynamic assignment, since PATS run was a pre-assigned event. So that's also another use case where Launch can be used. So I guess the point of this is that this product is going through the ringer on a week-in, week-out basis, and it's doing very well. Yeah?
How many stations do you set up for the 30,000 today?
We had, 29 stations? Yeah, 29 stations. So that was crazy.
How many routers?
We had 3 routers. So we had so it was split into basically sections of 10 kiosks each. So.
Do you have recommendations as far as number of kiosks versus number of athletes, maybe in a certain period of time that are coming in?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have any really hard, fast recommendations there. I know Spartan, typically they'll have, anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 people on each Saturday and Sunday, and they use around 12 to 14 kiosk stations. Yeah, Troy.
When the 2,000 or 3,000 entries were ending and building up, did you have one long panic attack, or was it several?
All right, yeah, I was not repeating the questions. I apologize. Troy's question was whether I had any, what the nature of my panic attacks were when there were all those pending changes building up. It was kind of a slow build, I would say. Yeah. All right, so let's just talk through some of the features within the admin side of Launch. So the admin side of Launch, when you first install Launch onto your machine, you will run the program. A modal window will pop up asking you to log in. So you will use your CT Live credentials, your admin credentials, to log in. Once you log in, Launch will open up automatically in your default browser, and you will be prompted to enter an event ID. So you'll enter the event ID of the event that you want to pull down, the one that you have access to. You'll hit enter, and there'll be a loading wheel, and your event will eventually pull down. As far as how long it takes for an event to pull down, we pulled down Peachtree to launch, which was a 60,000 entry event, and that took around 4 minutes to pull down, so it's pretty performant. I think, so I pulled down a number of Spartan events, around 7,000 entries. Those took around 12 to 13 seconds to pull down.
You pulled these down out in the field or here at the office?
You're going to want to, when you pull down an event, you're going to want to have a good internet connection, so here at the office. And the question was, do we pull down events out in the field or in the office? And the answer is that you want to, when you pull down an event, you want to make sure you have a solid internet connection. So once you pull down your event, when I say pulling down your event, I mean you're basically pulling down the athlete database. So your database of athletes from that event. And once you pull it down, there will be a card that appears, and you'll click on that card, and that'll bring you into your event dashboard view within Launch. So within this view, you'll have a list of your entries. You'll have the number of entries in the event, and also the number of entries that have bibs assigned to them. That will display, and we'll show you a screenshot on the next slide of that. Within Launch Admin, you're able to assign a bib or tag to an athlete. As I said, you can view the number of entries checked in or with bibs assigned. You can download a CSV file of the confirmed or of the entry database. So if you're running Launch, let's say, in an entirely offline state, as in you're not pushing changes to the cloud and you need to get those changes to the cloud after you're done, you can pull down that CSV, put it on a flash drive, bring it over to a computer with internet, and upload it to the cloud. So you can also set up a backup location for your athlete database that gets written to every minute. It gets updated from the changes that are made in Launch. We recommend a flash drive for obvious reasons. You don't want it to be on your computer because then there's a point of failure there. You can view the internet connection status. There's an icon that will indicate whether you currently have internet connection, whether changes are getting pushed to the cloud or not. And customized kiosk settings, we'll go through that in a little more detail later on. And then also a detailed change log. So when someone assigns a bib to an entry, you can click on this icon and it'll open up this thing called the change log. We're calling it change log. It shows 3 different statuses: pending, success, and error, if it's applicable, if it for some reason got rejected by CT Live. Within that change log, we show you the entry name that was changed, the time the change was made locally, the time it was pushed to the cloud, and also the fields that were changed with the previous values and the current values. So here's a look at once you've pulled down your event and you've clicked on that event card. This is kind of your event dashboard within Launch. So this cloud icon here, you see that number in there? That number will indicate the number of pending changes. So if you're running Launch online, usually that's going to be 0. But if you lose internet connection status for 10 minutes, you might build up 50, 100 pending changes. That number will indicate how many you have. This icon here will show you whether you have internet connection. So if it's green, you have internet connection. When you don't have internet connection, it shows as grayed out.
Is it spinning too?
It does not spin, no. Number of entries in the event that you pulled down, number of entries checked in. This is kind of the athlete table right here. This you can search by name or bib. You don't have to hit enter or anything. As soon as you start typing stuff into this field, it will start narrowing down the search results. And then you can click into these athletes, view athlete information, race information, and you can also assign bibs or tags. So that's the athletes tab here. So if you click on the kiosk tab, this is the view you get. So this is where you can customize your kiosk settings. Right now we're just showing the volunteer kiosk. You can close this up, and underneath it is you can customize also the athlete kiosk settings and the announcer kiosk settings as well. But the volunteer kiosk is kind of the main thing you would use for dynamic bib assignment. This passphrase field, this is used on the kiosks that are connected to the main machine. So in order for you to access the kiosk page on those connected kiosks, you must enter the kiosk passphrase that's specified here. So this waiver section, this allows you to include an electronic waiver in the flow if you want to do that. And if you have a Chromebook that has a touchscreen, that will allow people to actually sign with their finger, the electronic waiver. And then the various fields that you can include to show within the athlete page in Launch. So this is kind of analogous to within CT Live, the packet pickup options that you can show. Any questions on the admin side of Launch here?
The checked out button, I remember that has to be on or off.
Yes. So in some of the builds, I think in the builds that you guys currently have, that checked out button is still there. In the next version of Launch, that will be gone. Events will be checked out by default. So you won't have to worry about checking out an event before you start making bib and tag changes. All right, so the volunteer kiosk, this is kind of the bread and butter of dynamic bib assignment, as I said. So you need to enter the passphrase that was specified on the admin side to access that page. You have live search functionality, kind of similar to what I was talking about within the admin side. We have entry lookup by scanning a barcode. And as was mentioned earlier within CT Live, if someone registers, they get a confirmation email. We now show a barcode in that email. So if you have a barcode scanner that can scan a mobile phone, surface, that we do recommend that because that's pretty convenient. You can view customized information, so those on-site packet pickup options I was talking about. You're able to assign only a bib or bib and a tag, and the electronic waiver. If you want to show, you can show it. Yeah?
I know we've asked you about this, but is there a way we could have an option of doing QR codes instead of barcodes so we could use tablets for check-in?
So the question is there a way we could use QR codes instead of barcodes?
We just have the option.
Yeah, to have the option. So that's a good suggestion. I think that's something that we have to look into. We haven't really unpacked it too much yet, but I think that would make this product definitely a lot more versatile.
Do you happen to know if the scanners, the first kiosks I bought were, I bought your, the big Pelican case. It came with 5 scanners, 5 laptops. Do you know if those scanners can scan a phone?
So the question is, the Pelican case that have the kiosk sets, those scanners within those cases, can those scanners scan a barcode on a phone? And I believe the answer to that is no. So those scanners can only scan paper barcodes. Yeah, Nick.
So we do have the recommended scanners on the knowledge base
Mm-hmm.
to use, and they're like $40 or $50, and they can do QR codes or they can do barcodes. So or on phone screens themselves. So one question for helping: why did you want to use QR codes instead of bar?
Just our experience with barcode scanners, they're finicky. You got to get them at the right angle, and QR codes. We use them at all the North Base events. With Eventbrite has a check-in module, and they use QR codes in there. It's right; it gets it every time, quick and.
And does it use the phone, the camera on the phone to take a picture?
Which is the biggest thing. So we don't have to we don't have to buy barcode scanners. We don't have to haul them everywhere. We can just use, a volunteer with a smartphone. We just give them the URL, and they can do everything off their phone. So it's just ease of use.
Yeah, that's definitely a good suggestion that we'll look into. So some screenshots. So on the kiosks that are connected to the main machine, you would load the enter passphrase page. This is what it looks like. So to access any of the 3 kiosks, you would enter the corresponding passphrase here that matches the one in admin. And once you do that, this is the volunteer kiosk. The first page that loads is the athlete search page. As soon as you start typing text in there, we start returning results. Within those results right now, we are showing the hometown, the reg choice, and bib information, as well as the name. And one thing to note here is that if you are using barcodes and you told people to bring in the registration receipt that has the scannable barcode, as long as you're clicked into that field, when you scan that barcode, it will automatically forward you to the athlete page.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you change that to include age?
So the question was, could we change this display to include age? We certainly could.
So I'm just thinking like two guys, same name, same home.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
A way to
it's
distinguish.
An indicator of who's standing in front of you. You know,
Yeah.
one's 16 and one's 50.
Yeah.
You know which one to click on.
So age could be used as another point of data to distinguish quickly whether someone is, just between two people with the same name, essentially. Yeah, that's something that we could certainly look at adding. It seems like it would be a pretty small amount of text to add to that kind of constrained area, so I think that'd be a good idea. So this is the electronic waiver. This, within launch, when you pull down your event, we also pull down all the available waivers within CT Live with the accompanying waiver text. So that's what would show if you selected a waiver to show. And then if you do have that in the flow, once you sign that and go to the next page, it would be the athlete page, which is where you assign bib, tag, where you can see the packet pickup options associated with the entry. Any questions on that volunteer kiosk flow?
Just I'm confused about the waiver thing. Why would they sign a waiver? Would they already have signed the waiver during the registration process?
Yeah, so they would have agreed to the waiver during registration. That is, there are ways kind of around that. Let's say I'm registering like a bunch of people in this room and I just agree to the waiver for them, for instance. I mean, in the spirit of transparency, Spartan requested this because the Spartan races are, they're a little more dangerous than most races, and they need those people to actually sign a waiver on site. So built it for them, but I think it could be applicable to other races as well. All right, so the launch athlete kiosk, really there's not a lot else to say about the athlete kiosk that I haven't already said about the volunteer kiosk, other than the bib field is read-only. So that's pretty much that. It's about the same thing.
Does it time out and reset back to the normal screen, or do you have to hit back every time?
So the question was, does the athlete kiosk time out and go back to the search page automatically? And the answer is it will in the next build.
Yeah, if you want to just have that as a toggle,
Yeah.
turn it on and off, give us the option, and maybe even let us choose the amount of time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think it's going to default to 15 seconds at first, but I like the toggle idea. That might be a couple builds down the road, but we'll definitely take that into consideration. All right, and then we have the announcer kiosk. So the announcer kiosk, currently we display the columns. We display the read number, the name of the person, the race they are in, their bib, and their hometown. Those columns currently are static. Right now the announcer feature is in a very basic mode, and we have plans to iterate it on in the future. I think I spoke with some of you on the phone about what you guys were looking for in announcer kiosks. I spoke with some announcers, so I've gathered a lot of data on kind of what would make an announcer kiosk valuable. And another thing that we're going to definitely do in the future is hydrate that announcer kiosk with Athlinks data. We think that's going to add a lot of value, for the announcer to be able to say, this person has done this race 5 times in the past, or, this person's PR is this, they're about to PR, something like that. So we're excited about what that can be in the future, for sure. And then, so let me just go over kind of the sync engine. So when you set this up on site, you have your router. If you have an air card plugged in, you can push changes to the cloud, right? So that's one way. So you make changes locally. Those get pushed to the cloud. When there is no internet, changes get saved locally, and they get saved in kind of a pending state. And we're constantly checking to see if there is internet with those changes to see if we can push them to the cloud. When new entries are added in the cloud, we are pulling down those new entries to launch automatically if you have internet. So, for instance, if someone is on the way to the race in the car and they register on their phone, they will show up and launch. The one thing that we're not supporting yet is edits to existing entries getting pulled down to launch. So if you edit an existing entry in the cloud, that edit you made will not show for that entry in launch yet. That's a slightly more complicated engineering problem. We're still working through what the best, most performant solution is going to be to that. But that is something that we know we have to do to make this a complete product as far as the syncing is concerned. So here's a diagram, essentially, that shows, just gives you a visual kind of aid of what the setup might look like on race day. These are your various kiosks here. They're pulling their information from the machine that is running launch. And then this communication in an ideal world is two-way. So let's walk through the launch on-site setup. It's really fairly simple. So before the event, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to pull down that event with a good internet connection. There's no reason why, there's no reason why you can't pull it down maybe the night before packet pickup, right? When you have good internet connection, we definitely recommend that you pull it down before you're on site at the event. Configuring the router also is something you should do well before the packet pickup. We also recommend, it's not on a bullet point up here, but testing things, making sure that it works once you've configured the router. Daniel Murphy wrote a great knowledge base article about how to configure the router for launch, so I'd highly recommend taking a look at that. So the idea is if you do all that pre-event, once you get to the event, it's really kind of 3 easy steps to set this thing up. You plug in the router, turn it on, connect the machine running launch to the network, connect all the kiosks to the network, and then enter the passphrases on the various kiosks, and you're all set at that point. So as far as things that are coming soon, we're currently in testing. We're working on the ability to set min, max bib ranges. I know this exists already in CT Live on-site options, so this is kind of a feature parity type of thing with CT Live. Ability to set custom tag prefix. So one of the issues we've noticed with Spartan with their dynamic bib and tag assignment is that volunteers will do crazy things, right? They'll scan a bib in the tag field. They'll scan whatever in the tag field, and getting validations into that tag field to prevent this from happening is crucial because, as Nick mentioned with that unknown runners report, although we have that unknown runners report and it's a great feature, we don't want people to have to use it a lot, right? So the idea there is to prevent tag mistakes that are going to negatively impact scoring. Ability to assign bibs and tags to relay teams. Currently, we do not pull down relay teams into launch, so that is something that we are going to be working on in the near future. And then feature parity with CT Live on packet pickup options that you can choose to display as well. Down the line, as I mentioned earlier, a more robust announcer feature is critical, we think, for this product. And ability to edit at least more athlete information, if not all the athlete information within launch. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering, you talk about dynamic bib assignments. Don't you normally do bib assignments like right before packet pickup, or are these just to do assigning bib numbers for people that register at packet pickup?
So the question was pertaining to dynamic bib assignments. Don't those normally happen before packet pickup? And so as far as I'm aware, there's two kind of general ways to get people bibs assigned. You either do it well before the event and you pre-stuff these packets with these bibs, or at the event, an athlete shows up, they don't have their bib assigned yet, you have a stack of bibs, the volunteer just pulls one up, assigns it to that athlete on the spot into the system, right? So that's what I mean by dynamic bib assignment, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
So I absolutely love Launch. I can't wait to start using it, but I have not used it. I'm just wondering, so your computer does not want to go to sleep, your main hub computer.
Yep.
What other things can happen? Like, have you ever had like the main computer freeze up and have to, I'm just trying to think of some other scenarios that would totally shut down the whole line.
Yeah, I mean, so the question was like, what are some of the major things that can happen that can interrupt a packet pickup flow? Like, can the machine running launch, can it just freeze up on you? And we have had reports of some strange things happen before. I know, Adam, you said that the first time you used it, everything just kind of stopped working at one point.
Yeah, and
but
like everything like disappeared.
yeah.
Figure out why.
Yeah, so sometimes like we've had some kind of weird random stuff happen, but some of the main issues that we've seen are the launch machine or the machine running launch, or some of the kiosks will just jump off the network. If that happens, especially if the machine running launch jumps off the network, you're hosed, right? All those kiosks are going to stop working immediately. Router issues is something that we've run into, and kind of the recommended fix for that is just to restart the router if it's not working. But one good way to troubleshoot things is on the machine that's running launch, open that local host. So there's this, if you read the knowledge base, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically, if you open the launch admin side on the local host side, it's not communicating out to the router. It's just all the communication happening within the machine itself. And if everything is smooth there, but things are locked up in the flow, then that's probably a router issue. So, Nick.
I point out too that if you have the thumb drive and that's your backup database, doesn't matter what happens to your laptop, you've got all your data on your thumb drive. So if your laptop just dies, right? It's a hardware problem, pulled out.
And you said you can set that to push it to your thumb drive every minute or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are any of the events that you referenced doing any on-site reg as well and launch running for bid assignment?
Yeah, so I know all the Spartan events are doing on-site reg while they're doing. Yeah, sorry. The question was, are any of the events that I mentioned doing on-site reg as well as bib assignment with launch? And the answer is yes. Spartan does that. I know there's probably a number of other events that do that. They do the on-site reg with the classic on-site flow in CT Live, since we don't have an on-site reg flow in launch yet. So, yeah.
Just to throw this out there, so feasibly you could have 3 regular laptops, not Chromebook, but full-on laptops, not even use the router. You could just have 3 laptops running launch and not even have a router involved in the situation, right?
Yeah, so the question was, conceivably you could have 3 laptops running launch, separately from each other and not have to use a router. And the answer to that is yes. The drawback is that they wouldn't be communicating with each other, right? So if an athlete did something crazy, like got a bib assigned on this laptop and then got another bib assigned on this laptop, that most recent bib assignment is going to get pushed to the cloud and overwrite the one that was made on this machine. So you could have some wacky things happen, but those are pretty rare, I think. So yes, you could run it that way if you so desired. Yeah.
I'm sorry to not be aware of it. How do you actually start this whole process? I don't see any place. Where do I go?
Yeah. No. So the question is, how do I get started using Launch? Yeah. And the answer is, you got to email me. I'm the gatekeeper right now, but we are definitely looking soon to formalize the process of, us putting this in a publicly available area where you can actually download a build from, CT Live. You can log into CT Live. There'll be a downloads option, and you can, yeah. So that'll be coming down the line. But if anyone wants to launch, come talk to me after this, and I'll get it to you.
Well, kind of just a little bit of a follow-up then. So you're at a big event and you have all your kiosks set up and you have the solutions table and you're taking a lot of new registration and in the middle of the expo, the internet disappears.
Mm-hmm.
If you have already installed Launch and pulled the original data file down, at the point in time that the internet craps out, you should have 100% of your registration. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the question was if you're doing an event, you got on-site registration going on, you're running Launch, and the internet just craps out in the middle of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, will you have all your data on the Launch machine?
You have a pickup over here, dynamic with
Right.
terminals.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got 3 over here taking your sign up. And I'm assuming from how you described it that the terminals, the kiosks, will be smart and they're going to say, oh, we got no internet, so they're going to push over to the storage. But you're going to lose your on-site registration, is that correct?
That's correct. You would lose your on-site registration currently.
Temporarily out of business on on-site. You're still able to dynamically assign bibs. When the internet maybe comes back, then the system Launch automatically goes ahead and populates the master in the cloud.
Yep. Also, the question is, when you're out of internet, you're still able to continue dynamically assigning bibs, and the answer is yes. And those changes will get pushed to the cloud when internet comes back
The only thing
automatically.
you lost was new registration.
That's correct.
Okay.
You wouldn't lose the new registration as long as you had internet at the end of the new registration, they would be in ChronoTrack Live.
That's true.
Yeah. You wouldn't lose.
So you can take on-site registration.
You won't be able to take on-site registration without internet.
But the next time you connect, it will pull it down to Launch.
That's correct. New entries will be pulled down to Launch.
Wait a minute, sorry, I'm confused again. New registration goes to the cloud.
Right.
Yes.
You stay locally. So how, if you don't
But
have internet,
it
how
won't
is
work.
it getting to the cloud?
You won't be able to take on on-site registrations if there's no internet.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
So for as long as you're out of internet,
There's
you're
no-
good on dynamic bib assignment, you're
Right.
not sort of.
But once
not
your
on
online
internet.
comes back up, your Launch will get those registrations get taken and pull them down.
No, they won't, not if I didn't have the internet.
I said when the internet comes back.
So
If you
for
get it
instance,
back, you would get those.
if an athlete were registering from his phone and had cellular connection, he
Yeah.
can still register.
Got it, for the
Once
phone.
the internet comes back up,
Perfect.
Launch will
Or
automatically
home.
grab those.
So
Correct.
home or phone, but if they walked up to me at the table and said, I wanna pay you $100, I can't take that, correct?
Correct.
Got it.
That's why you bring paper phones.
And then we say, go use the iPad and we'll take care of that. Perfect.
Yep.
It-
Yeah, no problem.
Are you referencing though, you were doing it for a while and everything was great and then it crashed, right? So when
Yeah.
you got back online, those people would eventually come down to Launch because they were already in the
But
system.
they're already in there, I'm worried about that.
As long as you had internet when they were getting, they should get pulled down already. They should have already been pulled down before the internet went out. Unless the most recent registrant and then the internet went out before it had a chance to pull down. Once the internet comes back, then it will pull down from the cloud.
They
Yeah.
go at the same time.
Yep.
It's constantly polling in the background.
Yeah.
It should feel, if you have good internet, it should feel pretty live.
Mhm.
Reg up, launch down, should be pretty real time.
Yeah.
The latency is just caused by the internet connection. So terrible internet connection, you might have seconds worth of latency, but it shouldn't be much more than that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, come talk to me if you want Launch after this, and I'll get you guys hooked up. Yeah.